Welcome to the Live Courageously podcast show. I'm your host, John Duffy, and this is the 55th Live Courageously podcast show since I started the show about 2 years ago. Live Courageously has been the conscious theme of my life for the last 3 years since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, and it's been an unconscious theme for most of my life. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. So let's meet today's courageous guest, Madeline Gonzalez. And Madeline serves as the dedicated operations chief for SERT Ministries, working nonstop to facilitate the rescue of men, women, and children out of trapped situations worldwide. She uses her background as a dispatcher to work closely with federal, local, and international strategic partners, her SERT operators, and families in crisis who reach out needing help in times of their distress. Madeline's advocacy for exploited children has been measured by hands-on efforts with her team across North America, Central and South America, East Africa, Asia, and most recently, she has deployed on 14 trips to the Ukraine during the war, receiving honors for her commitment to the spirit of freedom. Madeline says she loves to do whatever it takes to help people turn their nightmares into fairy tales. And let's welcome Madeline. Thank you, Madeline, for being here today.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. I got to go back. I always ask people where I met them because almost of all the 55 shows, about 53 of them have been people I know personally. So how did we meet, if you remember? And I'm going to share my side of it.
Yeah, I know. It'll be interesting to hear your side. We met through a crazy guy named Jason Cisneros, who I love. He is actually, I say he's married to my best friend, Emily. And someone told me the other day, yeah, we met Jason just to meet Emily, and we were laughing about that. But Jason's a great guy. He's an operator on our team, and then Emily's kind of my right hand with keeping operations going after we became friends. And we went to go meet him in Santa Monica, and you were there. And then I remember we ate tacos and walked almost to the pier down that way, and just had some really good conversation. I think my dad and my sister were there too, and yeah, it was great.
Well, that's exactly what happened. And Jason, I was hanging out with Jason, and yeah, he's a crazy guy, and he's a dear friend. And, we come out of a similar motivational background. So when he invited me to have dinner with you, I was like, yeah, sure, of course. Yeah. But I didn't know who I was meeting exactly. Mm-hmm. And then, when I met you and heard the story of your family and your dad and you and your sister, I was just blown away because I've been around, some pretty courageous people, but what I heard from you and this was about 5 years ago?
Probably.
Yeah. And so, I just was, your dad obviously, was one, he was the guy, the military guy, former Marine, recon Marine, tough guy. I got that. But you and your sister, I was just blown away by your commitment, your passion, your faith, and how you handle it. And so I was just asking questions. I mean, we could have talked for like 3 hours. I couldn't have had enough questions to ask you, but you just, the way you answered them and your commitment to rescuing these young girls who are trapped just blew me away. And it just, made me realize that there's some great people out here making a difference, changing the world. So that's how it started. And that's how I ended up getting to know you, and then eventually going to some events, and then finding a way to try and see what I could do. But what does Live Courageously mean to you? And I've asked that of everybody. And, I'm going, of all the things you've done, we could go on for hours of all the courageous things you've done. But what does that mean, that term mean to you?
Courageous is one of my favorite words. And I love that that's the name of your podcast, Live Courageously, because I think that it's something that we're called to do as Christians, is to live courageously. And actually, recently, I found out just a couple years ago, and this is pretty funny. Actually, when I turned, I don't remember how old I was. I think I was 20. But when I got hired dispatching, someone at work asked me, they're like, Maddie, is your name Madeline or Madeline? And I was like, well, you know what? I don't know, because it's spelled, you can say it either way. You can say Madeline or you can say Madeline. And I went home and I asked my parents, I was like, what's my name? Like, I didn't know. I was like, is it Madeline or Madeline? And they're like, well, when you're in trouble, it was Madeline Nadine Gonzalez. And so Madeline is what I go by, and I like Madeline a lot better than Madeline, so I went by that. But then something that I've always loved doing is studying the meanings of names. And my middle name, Nadine, actually means courage of a bear. And
Mm.
that is something that I started studying, and I love the scripture out of Joshua that says, be strong and courageous. The Lord is with you wherever you go. And I actually got a tattoo probably about a year ago of a bear with, it's on my arm. I don't know if you can see it right there.
Yeah, now we move over a little. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's a bear. And
Uh-huh.
it's there's better pictures on my Instagram and stuff, but it's a bear and half of her face is flowers. And I had Melissa draw that up for me. She's amazing. She's on our team, plays a huge part in the ministry. But basically, what I asked her was to draw a bear that represented their courage ever blooming and that it's always changing. And so, and getting stronger, and that courage is a beautiful thing. And so, I wanted that to represent my middle name. And courage means to me to just go places that you don't think you're capable of going, and seeing God show up and carry you through those situations. And he always does. And so be strong and courageous because God is with you wherever you go. And yeah, so I love courage. I love that it's always changing in my life. There's always something new happening. The beginning of on New Year's, I always like to pray for something new to happen in my life. And I usually see God answer those prayers over the course of the year. And New Year's of 2021, I prayed that God would take me just to new heights within the ministry that I do. And yeah, we mainly find missing kids and all that, but I wanted to do something new. And little did I know that's when the Ukraine war happened. Russia invaded Ukraine, and I found myself in a war zone 13 times over the course of a year and a half, and definitely took my courage to a whole new level. And so that's what it means in my life right now, to be courageous. And I think that courage can always change no matter what situation you're in. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to go to all of that. There's just so much to dive in there. I'm going to throw up a quick couple of pictures. This
Cool.
is you with your dad with
Yeah.
the SERT logo. This is a great picture of a hat, and it just basically says, the only thing tougher than a recon Marine is a U.S. Marine Corps recon daughter. And I think that definitely sums up you. And when I met you the first time, it was, the two things that I caught was that toughness, that courage, that braveness. But then it was the love that you had for people, and your faith was the other side. So it was not somebody, because you didn't come across as just tough. You came across as somebody who was gentle. And,
thank you.
It was that gentle toughness that's impressed the hell out of me.
I think Jason would disagree, Jason Cisneros, but
well, I think we our good friend Jason, you can't be too gentle. You have to be extra tough with him, right?
Funny. No, I love that. So that hoodie, actually, Cece and I made as jokes, because you know how girls love to steal their daddy's hoodies? And
yes.
That was one that we weren't allowed to ever steal, was his recon hoodie. And because he said, nope, you got to earn that. And so he never let us wear anything from his recon unit. That was his, but we could use any of his other stuff. And then at the time, there were a bunch of recon Marines that were on our team. And I think Price is on here watching, so he's probably laughing, but he's who you had on your show last week. But recon Marines, they all, they wear their black hoodies with their sunglasses and their hair, and they flip it and all this stuff. So Cece and I are like, well, if we can't wear Dad's recon hoodie, we're going to make our own. So we made those ones. Only tougher thing than a recon Marine is a recon Marine's daughter. And it's funny, but we love them.
That's cool. That's cool. And this is a picture of the family. Obviously, your dad, your mom, and you and your sister. That's a great picture. Yeah. But so just diving back, starting at the beginning, your dad obviously started his journey of many journeys. And I'm going to have him on the show and he'll share that journey. But he started his journey. One of them ended up taking you when you were young and your family to Africa. Is that correct? And I'm going to show that picture real quick. That's just a picture of you much younger.
Yeah, I was 21 there. And what had happened was my dad, we always had a rumor that, and a joke kind of as a family, as when parents were empty nesters, they'd probably move across the world somewhere and do something in some jungle in far off land. Sure enough, the year my sister graduated high school, my dad ended up going to Liberia as an Ebola fighter and worked as director of security there for different nonprofits that were in the area fighting Ebola. He was there for like 3 months. And then he came home and was offered a position to be director of security for East Africa and the Middle East. And so my parents made the decision to move there, move to Uganda, so East Africa. And at the time, Cece had just graduated high school. She was like, well, I'll go. Like, she didn't know what she was going to do yet. And she felt like that's where God was leading her. I actually had my career, just finished training with law enforcement as a 911 police and fire dispatcher. And, was still commuting from home, but looking at like getting my own place and moving closer to the department I was working for and was making good money at the time. And third world missions had always been my heart. Like ever since I was little, I always wanted to go into all the world. That's just what I wanted to do. And God had steered me towards law enforcement right out of high school instead. And when they were talking about and broke the news to us that they were basically moving to Africa in like 10 days, I was like, no, like what? You're going to do that? And I was like, well, it's fine. Like I have my own life in a way. And God just definitely shook me upside down. And I was going to work that day and I was working a graveyard and my devotion was out of Matthew and it said, whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to resign. So I went to work without talking to anyone and put in my resignation. And my supervisor was like, what? Why are you going to leave us? Because I was one of 5 that actually made it through training. And training was a very long time. And so the department was finally happy to like have somebody that they could trust and keep on staff. And it's a really, really hard thing to get hired as a dispatcher and keep someone that's good enough to do the job. So it was a big loss for them, but they're like, we know that you're made for more than sitting behind computers and answering 911s, even though that's a very admirable thing to do. Like, Maddie, we know that your heart is missions. And so they sent me off with just the best way that they could and told me, the door's always open, but I'm still in touch with the girls I worked with there. And so I went home and woke up that day. It was like mid-afternoon. I told my parents, I was like, hey, you guys want to grab coffee before I go to work? And so we went. And it's like, so I put in my resignation. I'm going to go with you. And they're like, what? Like they were so surprised. And they're like, your career. And I was like, yeah, but God's really leading me in that direction. Like I want to go. I didn't even really ask them if I could go. I just went and didn't know what I was going to necessarily do when I got there. But I was allowed 3 suitcases and I took 2 guitars and 1 suitcase of clothes and gave all the rest of my stuff away. I think I still have like 1 bin of stuff that I kept up in my dad's shop. And I was just thinking I should probably dig through that now that it's been like 7 years and see what I actually kept would be funny. But yeah, ended up working with imprisoned kids as a resettlement coordinator and was driving around the bush of Uganda. Those are my kids. I love them. The little girl in the hot pink dress hugging my arm right there. Her name's Magdalena, and she just stole my heart. And then Mercy in the middle. And I just fell in love with those kids and worked with them, did discipleship for them, and was in the prison, getting kids out of prison back home to their families or into safe places.
I'm sitting here. I know you. I've known you all this time.
Yeah.
I've heard the stories. I've interviewed you. But every time I hear it, it just kind of, I don't know, it blows me away because, we live in a time in a world where, everybody is so focused on self and just, just to be able to do what you did, to be selfless, to step up into service of others, and then go like even there, just in that point alone, go there, not knowing what you're getting yourself into, the danger, the risk.
Yeah.
For others, not for yourself, not for glorification of you, not to, promote yourself, but to make a difference. And I hear it and it just kind of, I don't know, it hits me hard. And I just think that everybody needs to take a moment and just think about that. Not everybody can be you. Not everybody can do what you do. Yeah. But we can all do more. And I think that's what I get from hearing you. It's like, wow, why not do something of service? And so anyway, I'm just being taken aback as I hear it.
Uganda was a very, very special chapter in my life. And I'm so grateful for that because it taught me, I learned more going to Uganda and being with the people there, serving God, than I think I was able to give them. Just spiritually, it helped me learn that things of legalism here in American Christianity that people argue over and debate over don't matter. Something that, I learned there was that kids are starving for affection. Yes, they're starving for food and medical care, and they're dying because of disease. But when you go see the kids, they run right past the food and medical care and they jump into your arms because they're literally starving from affection. They're dying because nobody touches them. Like, Uganda is a nation of children. And I just had the best time learning how to love kids and receive God's love by them loving me and giving what I could offer them, which wasn't a lot, but that they just filled my hearts. And that picture, I'm glad that you pulled it, but those girls, I think about them nearly every day, about who they are now and where they are. And, we got to sow seeds of hope in their lives. And they changed my life forever, for sure.
Wow. Whew. I just got to pause on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a pause there. So going from there, going to, I'm going to have you take into another story, because that was one part of the mission. I mean, and once again, just going back, your dad going over during Ebola. And if people don't realize how bad that was, to put yourself into that risk situation, but that's always what you've done. And then going forward, the work in the U.S. with rescuing of children from traffickers. So your first, you told me a story, and I really need you to share this story because it's so powerful. But I'm going to throw up a picture of you, if I can find it. Yes, this is the one. And you just told me, that this was your first operation that you went out with, and you were 15 years old at the time, correct?
15 years old at the time. Yeah, I've been doing ministry since I was 7, but 15 years old was my first missing persons case that I got to go on with my dad. Yeah.
And that picture is you and him in the vehicle. And then tell us the story, because the story, when you told me the first time, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I just, I think everything about it just captures what you do, what you and your family and your operators do, and who you are. So take us through that. Take us on that journey.
Man, so I'll try to share what I can share for sure. The girl from that rescue is actually a really dear friend of mine now. All these years, nearly 15 years later, she helped me bake all the cookies for my sister's wedding. Like, we're family. And so it's definitely an emotional one that I talk about every time, but I love her, and she'll probably listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, she told her story. And she's so funny because she's not shy about it. But as SERT, even though she's like, she'll speak, and she's actually the director of juvenile trafficking services for a huge region in America now. Like, she's just thriving and just punch life in its face for sure, from what she came out of. But it's amazing to go back to that because I had no idea what I was doing. People always ask how I got into the field, and it is really because of my parents, and especially my dad guiding me through how to build a career and resume, be an ops chief of 30 elite operators, going into the deepest, darkest parts of the world and helping people out of the worst situations in the world. But anyway, this is kind of where it all started for me, and what made me fall in love with finding missing people was this case. And what had happened was, at the time, my family grew up doing street ministry, like just going to crazy places and loving people to Jesus, basically, and in impoverished neighborhoods in the inner city. grew up going to Skid Row, feeding homeless people across the border into Tijuana, loving on kids that living in the garbage dumps. And then the ministry took a turn early when I was like starting high school. And what happened was we became really good at evangelizing in areas that involved trafficking victims, which spurred on to most trafficking victims are missing people. And from my dad's background, he had taken a turn kind of with the ministry and prayed about, Lord, where would you have me be a pastor? And early on, the Lord spoke to him like, go where the church isn't. And so where is that? Like in the highways and byways and in alleyways and loving the least of these, like the Bible tells us to do. So anyway, it evolved into SERT Ministries. And what had happened was we were actually helping look for another missing girl at the time. And off of that, just off of this digital calling outreach that we had done, because prostitution was mainly digital back then. Yeah, there were lots of girls that would still walk the street and were being sold that way, but a lot of them were advertised online for sale. And so we developed an outreach where ladies in our church would just call those ads and we would tell them, hey, we're here. Like, this is a safe number you can call. How can we pray for you? Would you like to meet for food? Like, can we meet you in person? And how can, pray for them, love them, build a relationship over the phone. And through that outreach, their pictures are posted online. We would notice like this girl doesn't look like she wants to be in these pictures. She's probably missing, and started identifying missing people. And so anyway, we were searching for another girl at the time, and a private investigator had asked us if we could take a look at this other case. And my dad said, sure. And so we did. And at the time, like the ministry was not filled with special operators and law enforcement. We had a bunch of college kids that were interning at our church to learn how to do street ministry. So it was just, a bunch of 20-year-olds, some like early 20s. And we had a homeless guy that lived in a box truck that our family used for outreach. And then my dad's associate pastor was a plumber and didn't have a background. And me and Cece were 15 and 13 years old. We lived in an 1,100 square foot house and had 14 people living with us. We like converted that casita and different, just had a house full of people. It was a crazy chapter in our lives. But anyway, kind of now we have, the ranch and a training facility. And it's funny because one of my friends that I reconnected with who I've known since kindergarten, he's like, you guys have always needed this ranch. Like, I can't imagine, because he knows what it was like. Like, we haven't really changed that much, but now we finally have what we've needed all of this time. So it's really cool to see. But anyway, we got this case in, it was in Sacramento, California. We go there and there weren't very many clues for the case about what was happening. And this girl had been missing for 4.5 months. And her parents were desperate to find her, and law enforcement. It's unfortunate because a lot of people think that law enforcement will always be there when someone's missing, but that's not the case. It's not like when you see on TV and law enforcement's at the family's house all the time and they're constantly chasing leads down and all that. And I am very pro law enforcement. I've worked in law enforcement. Our team's made up of former law enforcement, and current, and we work very closely with law enforcement, but it's sad because they don't have the resources to do what TV tells everyone that they do. And so this family was at a loss, like no one's looking for their missing daughter. And so we went and met them at a diner. And when we were waiting to meet with the private investigator, we were in the hood, and little 15-year-old Maddie loved to evangelize. I was a lot more outgoing than I am now. And I was like, Dad, can I go preach? And he's like, no, Maddie's in the car. And I was like, Dad, can I go preach? And he's like, finally got tired of me asking, I think. And so he's like, yeah, go preach. So I did. There was this lady that was standing there, and she was in her 50s. And I prayed with her and asked her story. And she gave her life back to the Lord, and my sister-in-law had given her her Bible. It was just like this Holy Ghost moment on the street corner. There's no other way to say it. And then we left, and we went to the diner to meet the family of the missing girl. And the dad was actually he wasn't like the happiest that we were Christians, I guess is the best way to say it. And we had heard some phone calls that the mom had called a phone number that was left behind in the missing girl's car. And we just heard terrible things on the other end of the phone, just absolutely terrible screaming and men controlling women in abusive ways and all of that. And so anyway, my dad looked at the dad of the missing girl and he said, I'm going to go find your daughter. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we have no leads. Like, we don't know. We really don't know anything about where this girl is. And the Holy Spirit just prompted him to say that. And I remember walking out of the restaurant, and my dad had like been ministering to the family. And so now if you ever meet my dad, he doesn't water anything down. He loves sharing his faith. And that's something that I really love about him, is that he's the same person everywhere he goes of sharing his faith. And he was just preaching to this family about who Jesus was in his life, and that, you know, God performs miracles. And so my mom had stayed with the family, and my dad and I go walking out, and we did have one lead, which is how we picked the neighborhood that we were in. And it was based off of the food bank receipt that was left behind in a car. So we thought, well, if people are shopping at this food bank, then they're most likely in this neighborhood. And so we were walking, and I remember looking at my dad, like I'll never forget it. We're walking out of a restaurant. I remember the door closing. I looked at him. I was like, Dad, you told that guy we were going to go find his daughter. And he's like, I know, I said that. And I was like, I don't know that. He's been gone for 4.5 months. And he's like, it's going to be fine. Like, God's going to help us find it. Okay, go on that. And so we did. And I jumped in the car with the private investigator. Mind you, again, I'm 15. My dad jumped in the car with his associate pastor and the homeless guy that was living in our box truck. We called him Big B. And they were in a Suburban, and we were like in a little Toyota Corolla or something. And we're driving down the road, and I see the lady that I had led to the Lord way earlier in the day. It's like 2 a.m. by this time, and it was like probably around noon when we had gotten there. I was like, hey, pull over and let's talk to that lady for a second. So the private investigator pulls over, and I have a flyer of the missing girl, and I cover up the name and just show her the picture. I'm like, hey, do you remember me? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, have you seen this girl? And she started bawling. Her countenance changed on her face. It's something I'll never forget. And she just like froze and started bawling and freaking out and was shaking and hyperventilating. And I said, you know her? And she's like, yeah. And she said, yeah, that's my friend, and said her name. And I said, whoa. Yeah, I didn't know. I think I would have handled the situation a lot better now, because I know things that are right to say, but then I had no idea what to say. And all I knew was to preach Jesus to her and give her courage through that situation. And I said, if you know her, she's missing, and she has a little girl, and her family's looking for her. Like, can you please take me to her? And she said, if I take you to her, they'll kill me. And I said, well, greater is he in you than you are in this world. Like, you just rededicated your life to the Lord. Like, you can do this. Like, you know that God can give you strength to get through this. So she jumped in the back of the car, and I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, this lady that I led to the Lord earlier knows where this girl is. And he's like, okay, where is she? And I was like, I don't know. She's going to take us to her. And he said, okay. And so my dad, we had seen that house earlier that the girl took us to, and it was really bad. Like, there were guys with shotguns out front. There were guys that were guarding it. It was like really, really bad guarded house, because they knew that there were girls in there that they were selling. And anyway, we pull up to the house, and my dad said he told his car, like, hey, do you want to fight or carry? And he told us pastor at the time. He's like, hey, just put that new Suburban like right through the front door and I'll run in and I'll grab her. And then, the other guy can fight. And like, that was the plan that they had come up with. But we pull up and the girl gets out of my car, and she just takes off running to that house. And the guys are gone. They're not there. So we had seen them earlier, but I don't know where they went. They were gone. It was like totally Jesus. So I call my dad. I'm like, wait, don't do anything. Let's just see what she's going to do. And so she runs in, and she in there for probably like 5 or 10 minutes and comes out, and she has the missing girl. And she was in really, really bad shape when we had located her. And it was haunting, I guess, is the kind of the only way I can say it. And she was very confused, and she was being chemically restrained by different drugs. And so she was very, very confused and angry and upset and injured. She's very injured. And I just told her, hey, I'm Maddie, and your parents are looking for you, and I'm here to take you to them. Like, can you please get in the car? And she was like, and it's funny now because I tease her, and she was like, you're an effing cop. And I was like, no, I'm not. I promise. I'm 15. Like, not an effing cop. And so she believed me, and she got in. She had courage to get in. And we went back to the diner, and she walked in and tapped her dad on the shoulder and said, hi, Daddy. And that's one of those moments that I wish we had on camera just for us to watch, because it was like there was not a dry eye like in the restaurant. Like, she was wearing just, clothes that they make girls work in, and she, like, it was close to 3 a.m, and it was like so sombering. And there's no other feeling than like a family reunification when it seems like all hope had been lost and then a missing person's found. It's just the most incredible thing. And her dad was bawling, and we were all crying. And like, we didn't even have time to tell the family that we had found her. We just showed up at the restaurant. And so then she lived happily ever after. Is the rest of the story.
It's just, you told me, obviously, I interviewed you once before. We were at the ranch, and you shared that story, and I just hear it again. And I just, for people watching, listening now in the future, it's just, this is just one person's life,
Yeah.
one girl's life, who you changed forever, who you went from bondage, and you meaning you and Christ, obviously through you, but she went from bondage and slavery, and who knows, possibly death, into who she is today, changing other people's lives and being a ripple effect in the lives of others and making a difference. Yeah. And the odds of you pulling that off were impossible times 100. There was, if you were gambling on it, you would have no odds in your favor.
Oh yeah, there's no reason any of that should happen.
None, zero. And
it's the only reason.
Yes, and you were 15 years old.
I had no idea what I was doing.
And you talk, and it's your first time, and you talk the woman, and then you talk her, and you're 15 years old, and it starts you on the journey to where you are today. Yeah. And it's just, it's mind-boggling. But for the audience and people, it's just, that's what you can do. If you support it, you help save one person's life. Simple as that.
Yeah, that is good for sure.
I mean, that's somebody just put a little quote up here.
Oh, I love Ashley.
Yeah, so she just shared.
She said she can't wait to share this.
Exactly. So, to go to go further now. I mean, it started there, and you've gone, and now you have. So tell us what SERT is, what the initials stand for, and you recently had a training operation where you brought in new operators. Yeah. So tell us what that is, and you're the operations chief, and tell us what that is. So take us through that journey.
Yeah. So SERT kicked off. My parents and family have been doing ministry for 21 years now. And for about 15 of those have been focused on the human trafficking and finding missing kids and helping people out of trap situations, responding to humanitarian crises across the world. And what it stands for is Search, Evangelize, Rescue, and Train. So SERT is very specific to having a team, a very special team that I love and get to be a part in leading, that takes guys that have former special operators, federal law enforcement backgrounds, medical professionals, basic law enforcement, just everybody across the spectrum that is looking for a way to get in the fight and do better. And so a lot of us that have been in first responder type jobs, or guys that are in the military, veterans, they're looking for a purpose. And that's where my dad's testimony helps them know that they're made for something more than just being a normal person. And so they get to use their skill sets to glorify God, and have a team that uses their skill sets and is crazy enough to believe. It's really cool because I know that we always get in situations where, like, we have amazing assets and we have guys with resumes that are some of the best in America. But what it always comes down to is us believing and praying, and our faith, and having the audacity to believe. And so that's who we are. And we're a really fun, loving group of people that I call the guys on our team violent sweethearts, because that's who they are. And I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. So they're the best. And I get to lead them and organize all of the craziness. I do every case from beginning to end. When it comes in, we're up to 101 cases this year so far. And just missing kids cases, and then trips to Ukraine. And we worked on 8 different countries this last year, different cases across the world. And so, yeah, that's us.
Yeah, that's you. And that, just recently you have an annual, what they call your in-doc and training, where you bring in new potential operators and train them. And that's a picture of that. This is a quote from that you posted, and that's them going up the mountain there, going through the training. And it's tough. Tell me, it's some very tough training.
So
and that's the picture of you leading the team in
Yeah.
talking through what was going to go on in the rescue.
Yeah, I love that you grabbed those pictures. It's hard to describe what we do. But yeah, we have an in-doc once a year. So we just hosted that back in August. And we had a ton of applications. We get emails all the time of, hey, I want to be an operator. Something that's really important to us is that you have to be fast to be on our team. And what FAST stands for is faithful, available, spirit-filled, and trainable. None of us are paid. None of us take a salary from the ministry. We're all 100% volunteers, including me and my parents. We all work different jobs to pay our bills. We host operations and training here at our beautiful ranch in Southern California. But yeah, none of us ever take a paycheck. We're all volunteers. And sometimes that's the hardest for guys that want to apply. They're like, well, I deserve, all this money to come volunteer. And their resumes say that they do, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for people that want to use their skill set to serve God in a radical way. And that's what our team's made up of. So thankfully this year we picked 6 guys that went through our interview process and application process, and they're highly vetted. And we put them through an in-doc that my dad and the team created that's based off of the Recon in-doc. And it's hosted here at the ranch over the span of almost a week. And what they have to do is different physical things. This year we incorporated Randy, which was a huge hit. So Randy was about 185-pound dummy that they had to constantly save his life. He was bleeding out different places. And the whole thing was based on a message my dad gave, which that quote that you put up of the picture of them carrying Randy up the hill was based off of Carry Me Home. So you can see Randy's on somebody's shoulders right there. And then the guys had to carry him around and, stop bleeding and all that kind of stuff. But we're made to carry each other as a team. We are each other's QRF. We don't have, governments behind us with like the military does to bring us home. We're each other's saving grace at the end of the day. Besides Jesus, that's all we have is each other. And so we're really, really tightly knit as a team. The guys on my team are like brothers to me. I love them. And they're probably laughing like, I'm going to record that. Maddie said she loves me. They're the best. And I wouldn't want to go into the world with anyone else. So, yeah.
And this quote, "Sit with warriors, the conversation is different." And I think here's them on the porch, all these warriors from the recent training.
I love that picture because the Indoc was actually one of the hardest weekends for me emotionally. I got a message the day that it started that our best friend in Ukraine, who was our main military contact, had gotten killed on a combat mission. And we had gotten so close to him. And he is a part of our team. And so the fact that we had the Indoc and I couldn't, curl up in a ball and just cry like I wanted to, I had to keep moving on. But just being together, was the biggest blessing. Even though we still had missing kids to find, we still had new guys to assess. And that porch, we were telling stories about Boris and our guys in Ukraine. And my mom snapped it and sent it to me. And it was just I just love sitting with them. I have to warn people that aren't around our team all the time. Our conversations are different because of the things that we see and do. But I love them. And they're hilarious. And in the midst of such a dark world, we laugh and love each other a lot. There's no other way to say it.
But I was just so honored and blessed to have been there, to have been able to film it with Lou Simon, my good producing partner. And the two of us were both blessed to be able to observe, to participate, and share in the stories, listen to your stories. And just like you said, the humor is just over the top. It's hilarious because you make fun of everything because you got to deal with some of the hardest things. And then the love. Love that's there, the love for what you're doing, the people you're helping, and for each other, that love. And just to sit in the room and to see some of the toughest people in the world, you see the other side, you see the other humanity of all of this. And I was just thank you, God. I'm just blessed to be part of it.
We love each other. And it's not necessarily, we don't make fun of the people that we help at all. It's just when we're together with each other, we just have so much fun. If we are sleep deprived we've been on an op in the field for 10 days, we're so tired, but just the fact that we're together and get to do what God's created us to do and serve him in that way, we just have the best time. And so, I think when my mom snapped that picture, I think we were telling stories about Ukraine and different things we had been a part of there. And, being in a war zone together, you learn a lot about each other. So we were laughing about.
And this is just some pictures of you. Obviously, they all go through this training. Obviously, weapons training. You go through that. You go through rescue training. This is a new vehicle that you got a picture of you. I got a chance to take a ride in it. It's fantastic.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, there's this other side. Which you're the best canine in the world.
My Duke boy. Yep.
Yes, and that's a picture of.
That's Trigger. Yep, that's the
other. And then the other one's Duke. And these are dogs that you train for rescues. Each one of them has unique skills, right?
Yeah. So Duke is he's one of only ones in the world that is trained on to find bombs. So he finds a specific type of bomb that's specific to a region that we work in. And he's also protection trained. So he is a huge blessing to our team. It's a very, very expensive investment that we did a fundraiser for. And he's a lifesaver. We love our Duke boy, but he deploys internationally across the world with us. He's also a huge team dog. You can see the guys love him. I'm his favorite person. You can see him just looking into, that's my friend Michael, just looking in his eyes. It's the best. And then him and my dad have more of a partner type of relationship. They love each other, but it's really funny because Duke bosses him around. He's like, Rudy, Duke found you a bomb. It's really funny. They boss each other.
We got to watch some of that training. And also, that he's such a loving dog. He is just so fun to be around. And yet, he's in a situation that he's required on to do what he needs to do, you don't want to be on the other side of him.
No, you don't. He actually, when my dad went to the handler course to learn how to work him, he had broken a guy's arm that was in a full suit.
Wow.
And so he's very, very strong, very capable piece of equipment, and it's a very amazing asset to our team. And then we have our Trigger boy, who was in that other picture you showed, who's completely opposite of Duke. They're both German Shepherds, but Trigger actually got recognized as a victim compassion canine. He's actually my dog, and Duke's a team dog. But Trigger, he is trained in night terrors and PTSD episodes. And he's also trained in emotional support. So he has actually sat on the stand with victims as they testify against their trafficker, and he makes them feel safe. And he taught kids that it's okay and to be safe and go out in public again, and learn how to, when they were scared of their abusive father trying to find them, he made them feel safe and go out in public again, and is able to like wake people up if they're having that really bad night terror type episode. So he helps kids during that whole process of learning how to live normal life again. He gives hugs. He's the best boy.
Wow. And there's just so much. I'm always how do I jam it all into, because you do so much, so when you get a call, like for example, this is something you posted, my sister is missing, and that starts you on a mission. And depending on how the call comes or the way you access it, it comes in so many different ways. But like you said, once you go out, sometimes it's 24 hours out. We went out with you for 3 days, all night long in the area, and we just got to see a little bit. And it wasn't even the full extent of some of the rescues that you deal with. Yeah. And like you said, it's, but you're doing so much because you're doing rescues. Like you mentioned, your tattoo. You have a woman who works with you that goes out and also does tattoos for what you call the princesses that you rescue from the traffickers, and is able to do tattoos for them to cover the branding that the traffickers do on them. I mean, you just do so much. And then you have the dog on the other side to deal with them emotionally. And it's from the beginning to the end. You're there the whole time, from rescuing to loving them, to changing their lives, to always being in their lives, giving them Bibles, praying with them, just everything. It's just an amazing thing. That's just, you can't wrap your mind around it unless you actually could see it. Yeah. But tell us a little bit more for people. And this is all on SERT, and then I'm going to shift to another piece of what you do, if that's not enough.
Yeah. So SERT, like I said, it's a very specific group of people. We're really picky with who we add to our team because we rely on each other. So we have an in-doc once a year. People can apply to be a part of our team, and then go through, actually, even once they make it through the in-doc. So we had 5 out of 6 guys make it that tried out this year, which was a blessing because in the year past, we had 2 out of 7 make it. So we don't take it lightly with who we add to our team. It's a very long process to even the guys that ran the in-doc this year. They're still go through a year of a vetting process and have to go on ride-alongs with our team to make it through. So we're very picky, like I said, and we use that team to deploy across the world. Like you saw that message come in on my watch I had posted. We get cases in every week of people that are either looking for their missing loved one, looking for missing child, contacted by law enforcement to help move cases forward they don't necessarily have the resources for. So those cases come in. We have a hotline for missing families or families of missing people that they can call, or victims that don't want to call law enforcement, don't feel comfortable doing that. They can call us and we'll see what we can do to get them out of the life. That number is answered 24 hours a day by either me or Emily on our team. And so that's our crisis number. And we also, get contacted online of, hey, my daughter's missing, my sister's missing. We take those cases in as they come. And when we have a viable lead to deploy, we deploy on them. So we start every investigation usually or search with doing some information gathering online using cyber resources and tools that we have. We have guys that are really, really good at that and finding people online, and then our team will deploy to go find that person on the ground. So wherever that needs to be, when and if we have the resources, we believe for them. We don't have a huge saving account with op funds in it. We put up a need and people give out of the generosity of their hearts to help us deploy and find those people. We never charge people anything financially that we help. So all of our help is completely free of charge to families. It's funded by generous donors and people that believe and support our mission. And so, yeah, it's a blessing. We have also gone to Ukraine 14 times and trained Ukrainian military on how to effectively keep each other alive, and they help us with rescues there when we do them. We have great relationships with the Ukrainian government. We actually have an MOU with them to effectively help children who have been specifically hurt by the Russian aggression and federation there. So, partner with the pastors that are on the front line that are continuing to love and care for their communities that haven't left even in the midst of war. So, SERT's mission is to help anybody out of a trap situation that they find themselves in. Lots of times people say, oh, yeah, you guys are that human trafficking ministry, but we do so much more than just human trafficking. We do a lot of human trafficking cases, but we work a lot of different humanitarian crises around the world and go wherever we're needed. If we can fit it into our mission, we will.
And you whenever you're on a mission on social media, it starts out with pray. You ask people to pray. That's the one thing that you ask initially. And then when you're successful, you post this, Geronimo,
Yep.
located. And that's to let people know that you've accomplished the mission. So that's a way. And then occasionally when you get a chance, and I have to put this up because it's another part of who you are.
Oh, my coffee.
Yeah, you and your coffee, SERT Ministry coffee. So it just, it keeps you going because at those long nights, and it's just, it's challenging. But that's a piece, the SERT, the operators, the search and evangelize and rescue and train. That's a piece of what you do. And then you also created more if that wasn't enough, and all the operations that you mentioned doing in the Ukraine 14 times, as well as all that. You also, created another offshoot, the Slave Free Project.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that and how, because obviously only certain people can be operators, only certain people can move down the path to help you as operators. But then you created a different way for people to help on a bigger basis, and that's the Slave Free Project.
Yeah, so the Slave Free Project launched, I think 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know, my timeline's off, but recently. And our goal with the Slave Free Project is actually SERT will become just a team. I don't know how long it's going to take, but the Slave Free Project, we're slowly making that transition to where the Slave Free Project will be the umbrella organization of the SERT team, so that SERT can just operate independently and we don't have to necessarily do like media promotion and all of that for the SERT team. We can just be a team that deploys and helps people in crisis. And so the Slave Free Project is for anybody and everybody. So the mission of it is to create slave-free certified businesses, churches, anybody and everybody that wants to fight trafficking or be aware of what's happening in their community, that they can be slave-free certified and say that they will not buy, sell, or trade another human being. They can, receive that training of how to make their communities better and free of human trafficking and really make a difference. So whatever lane of life you're in, how you can do something to make a difference, because not everyone's an operator. Some people are real estate agents or teachers or, in different fields. So whatever you want to do your part to make the world a better place, then the Slave Free Project is for you.
And, obviously for people, may not know, slavery is there's more slaves, human slaves now in the world than at any time ever. And sometimes people, and, for many years, you used to do rescues at the Super Bowl, which is the worst day of human trafficking in the United States. So it's an ongoing problem. And like you said, anybody can be involved. This is something you just recently posted where you're working with an organization through the Slave Free project with the Downey Fire Department to educate them. So share a little bit about that. That's just, once again, as if you don't have enough time, you're everywhere. But you're expanding the mission, you're expanding the purpose so that more people can do what you say is get in the fight, as how you describe it.
Yeah, we are definitely all over the place all the time. My friend called me the other day and they're like, you were just here yesterday. Like, why are you all the way in LA today? Like, LA's about 3 hours from the ranch, but we're all over the place all the time. And we're blessed by Downey Fire Department welcoming our family nurse practitioner, clinical medical provider that's on our team to train them to start where they stand within the work that they do as paramedics and EMTs, battalion chiefs, strike teams, on how to better interact with trafficking victims, because they're seeing it all the time, every day. I'm sure that they run across trafficking victims. So what can they do to offer those people help with the field of work that they're in? So that was really, really special that we got invited, and it's actually going to expand across LA County to where all of these first responders will be certified through our training, that they know how to effectively and better offer hope to people that are trafficking victims. So how can they just do a little bit more, but also go above and beyond to either, care just a little bit more? Like, what can they do to better the situation? Can they leave our card with our crisis number on it? Can they let the ER know, like, hey, this is a trafficking victim. We know because we recognize the signs, and we train them on how to do that. And so, it's an incredible opportunity. We've already have really great relationships with different emergency rooms that we train their staff and their nurses on how to recognize trafficking victims, and they're able to offer a way out for these girls. If they don't want to go back with their traffickers, then we can effectively get them out of the hospital before their traffickers do. So it's an incredible relationship and partnership, and just trying to make a difference in different people's lives in whatever field of work they're in.
And then you also do times you have, this is the Freedom Found Ball that you do annually to celebrate the people who work with you, and also to bring people together to, connect in a more light atmosphere. And then here's a picture. Years ago, we were at a rally. We ran into your family and we went out to dinner together. And then me and Lou ended up, going to the Freedom Found Ball and all that. So it's been a great journey. And what you do is just amazing. I'm going to throw up one more quote. And this kind of, I think, is a quote that you posted, but I love it.
That's my life verse for sure. It comes out of Proverbs 31, but it says, she's clothed with strength and dignity and laughs without fear of the future. And I think, especially as women that watch this, to know that you're created for something more. You have worth, and your worth and you are precious to God. And so that's something with, people always ask me, Maddie, what do you do for self-care? Like, you should take a break, or what are you going to do in the future, and all of that. And the Bible says that she laughs without fear of the future. And so, we take every case as they come. And in my personal life, it's, take every battle as it comes, every deployment as it comes, and just have joy through it all.
Well, we're coming to the end, and I want to do something for you because, when I was out there filming with you, I asked your dad, and I tried to get it out of him. As I pulling teeth, I try to get it out of you, which was to to ask for donations, to ask for money. And it was hard. Neither one of you, because that's not who you are.
Really bad.
You're really bad at it. And I know I'm not somebody who ever asks for anything in life or asks for money. But, asking for your organization and for what you're doing, I think is probably the easiest ask I've ever had in my life.
Thank you, John.
Because I think you're so unique. You're so special. Just like you said earlier, there's organizations out there of all types doing good things, but your organization, nobody takes a penny. Your family doesn't, your operators don't, everybody is donating. They got to make their income through other things that they do in life. And they have to then volunteer their time and their effort and their risk and all that for nothing, not for any financial reward. And they do, and you do it constantly, nonstop. And yet these operations cost money for gas, for food, for the things that you need. And, I think the average operation is 3,500 to 4,000. It can be a lot more depending on where you go, obviously, if it's internationally, but that's just to give people a little bit of a thing. So, being able to do that, to help what you're doing is a great thing. So as I was getting ready for the show, I heard a song by Faith and Country, and I love the song, and I've been playing it like nonstop since I heard it. But, some of the words are what are you waiting for? Why are we wasting time as if someone is making more? What if we could be the light that no one could ignore? And when I heard that line, what if we could be the light that no one could ignore? And I got chills because it reminds me of that's what you are. That's what SERT Ministry is. That's what you accomplish. That's what the Slave Free Project is. You are the light that no one could ignore. And by supporting you in whatever way people can, they can be part of that light that no one can ignore. So as I'm going to do the call out. I'm going to say, please, people, donate. I'm going to throw up a couple of things. This is, definitely something you can do. And this is a quote that you had, that sometimes miracles are just good people with kind hearts that God has sent to you. And so if you can be those good people and you can do whatever you can in the Slave Free Project, and there's the side of money. If you can donate, you can sponsor an operation. If you have that kind of income, that's going to be totally valued and very helpful. If you can donate one time, then donate one time. If you can donate monthly, $25 a month. It's not a lot of money. It's less than $5 a week. If you can't donate that, donate $10 a month, which is even less. But donate what your heart tells you. And if you're a person of faith, support the ministry, support what they're doing, support the rescue of these children from these traffickers. And if you're not a person of faith and you still see the value of changing people's lives, as you should, donate anyway. Support this ministry, support this thing, because just that one story that Madeline told us in the beginning about that one girl that got rescued as Friends for Life. You can change one person's life, and that's all you do in life, you'll have done something of value. So don't think you have to save the world. Save one person. That's all you have to do. And the way to do it, save some money, donate some money. I'm going to throw up real quick, where you can donate. But anyway, you can just kind of, now that I did that, you can do it through PayPal. You can go give it PayPal. You can do it via Zelle. You can, over there, you can Zelle it. You can Venmo it. And you can go to sertministries.com to see how to do all that. You can go to the slavefreeproject.com to do all that. So all that is ways for you to donate. So please, you've heard the story. You heard this amazing ministry, amazing mission, amazing thing in the world. We all can do a little bit. We can all do something. So please, to everybody watching it, do what you can do. And that's me coming from, like I said, I've never asked all this much before, but, I feel very comfortable because these are the best people I've met in my life. And I've seen it in up close and personal, who they are, what they do, what their heart, their faith, their beliefs. And, I'll testify for you anytime.
Thank you.
So anything you would like to wrap up with, Maddie, but we'll push this out there, share it with everybody. And I'm going to be interviewing your dad if he ever gets a minute from me, but in his crazy schedule.
Yeah.
But anything you would like to sum up that I haven't touched on or you would like to say?
I think I just love talking to you, John. It's a blast. And so thank you so much for having me and everybody that listened to bits and pieces of my story. And thank you for praying for us as we continue to go into all the world and help people out of trap situations. And so grateful to get to be on here today. So have a great rest of your weekend.
Well, thank you. And I'm honored and blessed to have you, and God bless you and your family and all your operators and everybody that you're touching in your lives. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.